We're live. We didn't do the countdown didn't work, but hey, we're live. That's amazing.
There you go. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Ray. We have no Heather today. She's off on special assignment, as they say in the news biz.
That's right. She is. She's taking care of one of our favorite clients, so we're really happy about that.
Yes. So we're talking today about TikTok resignations and the phenomenon that is now going on that people are filming their resignation on TikTok and then sharing it for the entire world to see.
Yep, correct. I mean, and I've looked at some of them, and some of them are very, uh, yeah, very emotional. And I think it's people need to be aware. Folks need to be aware that that any employee interaction can be can be and may be taped. Uh, so you've got to prepare as a leader, kind of as an HR leader as well as a business leader, that could be happening. And if you're not prepared, there could be some really really poor consequences.
Well, I think we just assume now that you should assume that it's being recorded and somebody's going to
Yep.
upload it and it's going to go somewhere. So it's
Yep.
going to go to Reddit, it's going to go to some sort of Substack, it's going to go on TikTok, it's going to go somewhere. So whatever you do will be uploaded and somebody will see it. Now, I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I thought a little bit more about it. And heck, if you're getting let go and you are going through the process and you videoing it and recording it and having it for whatever reasons that you want to do that makes you feel better, then I guess you should do it. Now, it's interesting that all these videos that are being uploaded to different sites and people are looking at them, I guess we're taking uploads of social media and looking at it in a different way legally, especially in places where there needs to be two-party consent of a video. I haven't read anything where somebody's gotten in trouble for uploading any of those videos. Have you seen anything where people are in trouble for violating two-party consent? I know Texas is one-party consent, meaning if you want to videotape it, you can. You have the legal right to do anything you want with it. But in two-party consent states, I haven't really heard any issues either.
Yeah, I have it. I mean, that's one of those areas that I'm very interested in because, yeah, nothing has popped up yet, but I'm sure it will. Especially, that was one of the concerns I've got around just you know, the legality of doing that and putting yourself at risk if you are, posting, some of these things, especially if you're posting it where both people are on the screen, and they're taping it that way because a lot of the ones I've seen are, the individual is taping themselves, and then you hear the other kind of person in the background, so it's not necessarily a full blown Teams meeting, with video. But I think you're right. Regardless of whether it's with video or it's just voice, there are some implications there that you have to be aware of. But nothing as of now that I've seen has hit the legal system.
It'll be interesting to see when somebody does that in an in-person situation where they're actually being let go
Yeah.
in person and they record it. My wife had an experience when she worked for an employer that will be nameless, and they had rented hotel rooms to lay the people off. So they had the manager invite her to the hotel, and he invited her up to his hotel room to lay her off. And then when she came in to get laid off, he said, "Okay, go ahead and sit on the bed, and
Uh
I'm
huh.
going to go ahead and call HR." And so that was a really odd way to
Yeah. Yeah.
conduct a
Exactly.
layoff, asking a female employee to go ahead and sit on the bed. And those are the types of things that, if somebody really wanted to make a stink about it and allege things that aren't appropriate, they could. But and yeah, then even recording that would look pretty poor. So I think that
Yeah,
this is a really interesting phenomenon. But I think what it does do is it forces people and it forces companies to be on good behavior as it relates to doing exits in in a appropriate way. Now, no matter how you get reduced or let go, laid off, whatever you're going to call it, it's not going to feel very appropriate to you. You're always going to have a high degree of emotion around it. We're all just human, so there's no way that you're going to ever feel like it was done correctly.
no, so true, so true. No, and I've heard before where a company may rent a ball, a ballroom space or meeting space to do it, but doing it in a hotel room is just like so inappropriate that it's not even it's crazy that
Yeah, there's like a
that
sleaze factor to like,
yeah
"Hey, come up
yeah
to my room and sit on my
yeah oh
bed while
yeah
I lay you off." And
yeah
granted, they did call HR, and HR was on
yeah
the speakerphone on the phone and assisted
yeah
in the process. However, it still doesn't get away from the very real fact that that wasn't handled really well. The interesting thing was I talked to somebody that managed that layoff years later who no longer worked for the company. And I told them about my wife's experience. And that individual told me, oh my gosh, that layoff was handled so poorly. We were so embarrassed by how that went down. So
yeah
even they knew that it was bad. So I think, what you see sometimes is just the poor planning around
yeah
these things, and
yeah
now we get to realize that the poor planning is being taped and going to be uploaded, and millions of people are going to see your poor
yeah
planning in action. So that's why getting it right and doing it correctly is so important, or doing it the best that you can in difficult
yeah.
situations.
No, exactly. And I think the other thing too is that, uh, you know, imagine, if you're going to lay off, which is has been the trend, is everybody that's being laid off gets invited to a Zoom call, and you lay off, 300 or 400 people at one time, uh, and then and just let them know, hey, sorry, you're being laid off. We're going to send you all the material to your personal email, and then as they're in the room, all their access is shut off, you know, or you know, which is crazy to do that. Or the other one that's even worse is the way you find out you're not able to you've left the company is when you can't get access in the morning, to your network. You open up your laptop and it doesn't work. Oops, I guess I've been laid off. That one's happening a lot too.
I believe in my heart of hearts that everyone deserves an in-person conversation.
Yep,
And
exactly.
that is really difficult to orchestrate, and it is really difficult to do. And we've been a part of very
Yeah,
large scale layoffs at multiple companies. And I am proud to say that we have never done that. We've never cut people's access off or sent them an email and saying you're laid
yeah,
off and off, cut off their access. I have never been part of one where we've called everybody into a room. We've always said that that's not the way we want to do it. When I was younger, I was working at a company that's no longer in existence, and they were laying people off. And what their process was you would come in the morning, and they would say we're doing a layoff, and they would put boxes in front of everyone's cube. You wouldn't know if you were laid off or not. And then at a certain time, they would send security through, and then security would read off your name, and then you'd have to throw all your stuff into a box, and then they would escort you out. And then as you were escorted out, there was a little table, and they would give you your check, and you would leave. And that's how they did it. And
yeah,
they did like
yeah,
multiple rounds like that, which everybody really hated, and I hated.
yeah.
I didn't think so. That would
Oh
be a
yeah,
good
yeah,
one to put on
yeah.
TikTok or
Worst way to do a layoff.
yeah.
And you're right. I mean, when we were at Cisco as well as BMC, I remember at BMC heading from in the morning, heading from Houston to Austin, so to have personal discussions with a couple of folks that are being affected, on the day, and walking them through it, and working with the manager. I mean, we did all the right things to to make it, respectful and appropriate, for those folks that were being impacted. And I think that's really the key.
Would you record yours on TikTok and post it?
I don't think I would. I think it's such a you know being affected several times. It's just such a tough time to for somebody emotionally. Uh, and I just it just I don't think I would. I mean, I'm much more focused on, okay, now what do I do now? What's what's my next move, and how do I break this to my family? That I'm going to be hanging out at the house a lot more.
Would your son or daughter do it?
uh, definitely, definitely. I think that generational change. I think definitely that they would do that. Uh, and not that they're big social networking, shares, but I think it's one of those things that they probably would do if they were affected.
My daughter would definitely do it, and she would use a filter on it while she did it so that she would look her best while she did it. So, uh,
Exactly, exactly. Uh,
she would absolutely do that.
yeah,
I have no doubt.
yeah, no, and you know, my daughter works for one of the big five FANG companies, and when they were going through the whole layoff, all the layoffs, at the end of last year and early this year, uh, you know, that's what they were told. It's like, hey, you'll know in the morning if you don't have access to your email. That's how you're affected. It's like, well, that's a new approach to letting people go.
That's beautiful. I mean, that really
Yeah,
is beautiful. No, I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, so who came up with that? That's now a best practice. I don't know
yeah,
where that came from. Is
yeah.
that
I'm not
just
sure where that
because
came from, but that does seem to be a new best practice for folks,
I would
which
be
is
interested
amazing.
to know if anybody's out there, if anybody's listening or anybody wants to send us a comment, when did that become a best practice and who's saying that's a best practice?
Yeah, no,
I would love to know that.
yeah. Uh, All right, we got somebody from Brazil saying a big hug from we appreciate that, Rafael. But no, definitely very interesting phenomenon that's happening, and I think we want to make sure folks are aware that this is happening, and I think we've got some ideas on how to how to make it better and things to think about.
Well, I think the ideas are really around having I think we talked a little bit about that, having a process where you meet with everyone. I think for most companies, I think that, if you're not a Meta, if you're not a, you know, Google where you have hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, I mean, that may be an impracticality to be able to do it in person, but I think
Yep.
unless you're one of those companies, I think if you're, um, you know, a medium-sized organization, you should be able to get yourself together to do in-person notifications for everyone. I know that we've done that for situations where we've laid off thousands of people. So I know it can be
Yeah.
done. It's a logistical challenge. It's a little bit like trying to, take a combat battalion and all their gear into another country and loading it all on a ship. So it's a lot of work, but it can be done. I think the other thing too is ensuring that people are trained correctly on what to say. The other thing where these things
Yeah.
go really awry is when people say the wrong things and people don't say the right messaging, and then people get the wrong impression about why it's happening. And I know people have really pushed back on this. Hey, it's not the whole George Costanza thing. Hey, it's not you, it's us. And the famous episode where George said that in
Yeah.
Seinfeld for any of you Seinfeld fans out there.
Uh huh.
Uh,
Uh huh.
People are pushing back against it, saying, "No, no, it's not me. It is me. There's a reason you let me go, and I want to know the reason." And people don't really like that answer anymore. But, in most situations, it's really not them. It is the economic reality of what's happening in the organization requires some. choices to be made. And unfortunately, you are one of the people downstream of some economic choices that are outside of your control. So I think just being really clear with people about, the practicality of it and them not taking offense, because it really is something that they're not able to control is really important. And then
Yeah.
having a process that's just really well communicated to everyone. I think that's really important. A lot of times we don't communicate these things really well. I think one of the most important things, like you mentioned, although it wasn't super well done when you get that email, is that people are told, "Hey, we're done. We're not doing anything else. We're done. We're over." And moving on, because people always hate the death by a thousand cuts. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
companies
Yeah.
this last year have done death by a thousand cuts where they keep doing these things over and
Yeah.
over again, and that just really impacts your productivity in an organization a lot. And so the more you can basically do one round of this and not have to do multiple rounds, it has less impact on the productivity, because everybody just sits around and worries until the next one comes and sits and gossips and chats about, is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? Who's going to be let go? So for me, those are some of the things that I think about. And those are some of the best practices that we've always advocated for. And then really, I think working towards getting people placed into their jobs. It's always so counterintuitive that when you are laying people off, you still have jobs internally that need to be filled. So I think having a really robust process by which people can interview for positions that are open are really is really important. People get really upset when they get laid off and then they're told, no, you can't interview for any of the openings that are internal. So
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
those are a couple of the things I think are really important. I don't know about you. Do you want to share some of your best practices?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is, you know, just yeah, like you said. I mean, these have got to be personal, one-on-one conversations that happen with a manager and an employee. Uh, the examples that have popped up on TikTok where a sales employee who loves the company, uh, really wants to be there, has been doing all the right things, and then an HR person lays that person off without ever with no manager interaction whatsoever. That's a clear example of the things not to do. It's like if you're going to do something impacting your employees, the manager has to be involved along with the HR team and doing it that way. So I think that's one. Uh, the other one too is making sure that kind of who's being impacted, uh, and keeping everybody safe. And if somebody has someone's a bit of a wild card, make sure that that person is not somebody who may be the person you want to do in person. That may be somebody that you want to do via a virtual meeting of some type. So I think that's the other best practice is just doing a good assessment of the folks that are being impacted. Uh, and then the other thing too is that I think is a best practice is, once it's all done. Well, I think the one you talked about where, if you need to put, numbers round one, round two, round three, that's not going to work. I mean, that's just the worst thing you could do, like you said. If you have to label your rounds of layoffs, that's not positive. It's going to come back to bite you. And then the other one I think that's important is the communication back to the employees after it's all done. Because the folks that are left behind need to have an understanding of, okay, hey, we're done. You've been selected to stay, and this is why this happened, and you know, you're going to grieve a bit for your coworkers who lost their role, but here's what we want to focus on going forward, and making sure that there's good communication to the folks that are left.
Yeah, I think those are all excellent points, and I think those are the things that you definitely need to be able to consider during the process. So I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. But yeah, if you've got any more tips, or want any more tips, we're happy to share them with you. So Ray, how can they do that? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just please give me a call or email me at Rey at thrivehrconsulting.com.
Okay. There's our banner. If you need to get a hold of me, it is Jason at thrivehrconsulting.com, and we look forward to working with you. If you need to get a hold of us via the phone, it's 888-393-3453, and we can help you out.
Yep, would love to help you out. And just remember, if you're doing a layoff or a termination, assume it's going to be taped, like you said, Jason. And we'd
Yeah,
love to help
it will
you.
be it will be videoed, and you will be on TikTok. So if you're one of those people that's not on TikTok yet, get on TikTok so you can look at you laying somebody off. Now, hopefully you don't have to lay off anybody. We're really tired
Exactly.
of
Hopefully you don't.
layoffs.
Hopefully you
Yeah,
don't.
we want to see the economy be up and to the right. All right, talk to you later, everyone. All right, see
Take
you.
care.
All
Have a
right,
great
bye.
day. All right. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, I gotta run. I gotta go take something to Lexi at school. So I will call you later.
Priorities, man.
Yeah.
Priorities.
All right, talk later.
All
All right,
right.
bye.
See ya. All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh my god.